fighting for the city for a long, long time in Concord. Manny Aspitia, who's another Ward 4 rep. Thank you, Manny. And I think that is all the public officials. So the way we normally work this is, of course, we would like to do it live, usually at the Lead Street School. But so we've substituted the virtual version of it. And I usually give a few short remarks, and then we open it to questions and comments. We ask some of the other public officials if they have anything they'd like to talk about. And we also can hear briefly from Sarah Marchant regarding the master plan. She's City Community Development Director, possibly from Tim Cummings. He's involved with something else as well, but about the Mohawk Tannery, and maybe Bobby Bagley, if she can get on later, about the pandemic and the public health response to the pandemic. While we're talking about the pandemic, we're into it more than a year now. You might remember that on March 16th, 2020 is when the governor closed all of the restaurants fully, all the bars and everything. And downtown Nashua just became a ghost town for several months. Working with the Board of Aldermen, of course, we quickly opened the outdoor dining, which provided a shot in the arm to downtown. Well, the status of the pandemic right now is that the numbers have come down. The number of cases has come down substantially from when it hit its peak in December and January, when we had about 600 active cases in Nashua. Now we've got about 120. It varies by the day. We were a little lower than that a few weeks ago. We are running a positivity rate. That means of the people who get tested, positivity rate of about 5%. That was more like 3% a couple weeks ago. So it's ticked up a little bit, but it's still pretty good. Our public health department has worked 7 days a week for a year now, and in terms of running tests, working with patients who are positive for COVID-19, and now helping the state to do vaccinations at a clinic that's being run weekly at St. Louis. It's going to move to the Temple Beth Abraham on Raymond Street and elsewhere around the community. But we still need to be careful. I do have my mask right here. We need to be careful because the pandemic, the disease is still dangerous, can still spread. There are some variants out there. The scientists are not clear how those exactly are going to work, whether they can be transmitted by people who have received the vaccine. I would urge everyone to get vaccinated. I have been vaccinated, no problems. It went very well. And of course, we owe it to ourselves and our family to get vaccinated, keep ourselves safe, but also others in the community, because it will inhibit the spread of the virus, the more people who get vaccinated. So I would urge everyone, when you become eligible, according to the guidelines set by the state of New Hampshire, to definitely get vaccinated. On a few other subjects, we are working into budget season right now. The city is under a lot of financial pressure as a result of actions taken by the state of New Hampshire, the so-called downshifting that occurs all the time, the raising of property taxes by the state government. They have a few months ago suddenly hit the city with a $4.5 million increase in our pension bill. Everybody in the city, or almost all employees, are part of the state pension system. This is unrelated to any increase in wages, $4 million. That represents 2% on your tax rate. And they also have indicated that school aid is down, will be dropped by about $7.5 million. That's another 3.5% or so on your tax rate. So those two actions together raise local taxes by 5.5% before we even get to the city budget. So if we were to hold all the budgets at zero, which means layoffs and other things like that, because of the cost of living that are built in, we could see a 5.5% increase. Now I'm working as hard as I can to try to, with our legislative delegation, with David, with Manny, and with everybody else, to try to get some legislative action to correct and help us correct some of these inequities, these reductions that still are in place in the governor's budget, but we don't know how that's going to go. So another thing that's on the horizon budget-wise is that the American Rescue Plan passed last week, which would give Nashua around $16 million. Now, I've not yet given the Board of Aldermen a briefing on this because the law seems very restrictive, and we need to see the rules regarding from the Treasury Department. So the Treasury Department is going to issue rules. In this entire 700-page bill, only about a page to 2 pages is related to the local aid, but it says it cannot be used for tax relief. It cannot be used for pensions. It can be used for a very limited number of capital projects: water, sewer, and broadband. That's it. No parks, no roads, no bridges, nothing like that. So we're talking to our congressional delegation about this. We're going to need to see these rules so we can determine how this money might be applied. But we'll give you more on that in the coming weeks. We did have a briefing for the Board of Aldermen on the Mohawk Tannery, the situation there. There is a possible cleanup, a so-called public-private partnership involving $6 million from the EPA and a significant contribution from a developer who would develop the property, probably for residential and a little bit of commercial down near the Broad Street Parkway, or now the Veterans Parkway, as we have renamed it. Still, those are the outlines. The details still need to be worked out. We've been we're working with the EPA and the developers for some time. The first task was to try to estimate what the cleanup, which will be a consolidation of all of the tannery waste into one spot on the Mohawk Tannery parcel, and then a cover of that material, how much that would really cost. There has been disagreement about that between first the EPA and the developer's engineers. Our engineer, the city's engineer, has looked at it, has indicated that it's very, it's very hard actually to estimate because you don't really know what's going to be required until you actually get down into the ground where all of this tannery waste is buried. So there are a lot of points that need to be negotiated and worked out before a cleanup can go ahead. It would be great to get it cleaned up, but we can't leave the city on the hook for for millions and millions of dollars, or left with the responsibility of monitoring and correcting any problems if there are leakage or whatever else later from the solution that they have arrived at. One thing that's coming soon is the outdoor dining. We saw last year that the people flocked to downtown as a result of the expanded outdoor dining. It really saved the small business and restaurants, but it also had the effect of creating more life, more energy downtown, many more people downtown that have ever been down there before, and many people really enjoyed it. Now, some have commented that it created more traffic congestion. That's not something that, it depends how sensitive you are to that, really. I drive downtown every day, and to me, it didn't seem like it's an unbearable weight that you ever had, but others have said otherwise. But we really have to make the basic decision when it comes to this, if we're going to consider this for the long term, as to whether we want the downtown to be more people focused, and so that people feel good there and want to go there, or that the primary objective is just to move traffic through as quickly as possible, with the people being kind of a secondary consideration. So we've authorized, and the Board of Aldermen has authorized, the outdoor dining for this year, and still businesses are affected by the pandemic. Our employees, our businesses, our waiters, chefs, bartenders, wait people, hosts, other people downtown have taken a big hit during the pandemic because of the reduced traffic and business. Without the outdoor dining, they would have been, much worse off. I'll always remember the sacrifices that our business community has made and the employees have made, and so we want to help them as much as we can. The another thing that's coming up is, and Sarah Marchant is here to address this a little bit in a moment, the master plan. We are undertaking a master plan for the first time in 20 years, since about 2000, so-called Imagine Nashua. We're asking for the input of as many citizens as we possibly can, because we want you to help us shape the city's future, to think about how you'd like the city to change or not change. We're looking at some specific areas of the city as well, the Daniel Webster College, which we do not own or control, but still it has possibilities, excuse me, as well as the downtown and other areas in the city. So those are some of the things that are going on. Maybe we will turn it over now. I apologize for somebody's getting me a water. Do Lori, Mike, or Tom, do you have anything you'd like to add at this time regarding any of these city issues?
I'd like to chime in, Mayor.
Go ahead, Lori.
I'm hoping that people in Ward 4 did enjoy the outdoor dining last summer. It really did seem to be a big hit. I think we saved a lot of merchants and restaurants by allowing, this to happen. I think it's a good thing for Nashua. And in the summer, we tend to have less traffic typically because people have gone away. They're at their summer home at the lake or at the beach or somewhere. So I'm really a big supporter of the downtown, permanent downtown summer dining, outdoor dining. I think it's a really good thing for Nashua. So I hope you people in Ward 4 are supportive of it and you go downtown and eat. Thank you, Mayor.
Of course, we know that many people from Ward 4 live close to Main Street and so can walk or a very short drive. Mike or Tom?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to mention last year was our first time crack at it to have the outdoor dining, and I feel it was a great success. I heard a lot from a lot of constituents and from a lot of the business community down there, and exactly what I agree with Alderman Laurie Wilshire. I mean, it did save a lot of businesses and it did help out, but we learned a lot too. I mean, we probably made some mistakes, not really mistakes, but it didn't anticipate some of the things. But this year we're trying to improve that. We are looking at probably working with the infrastructure, some of the lights and stuff like that, timing them in such a way to assist with that traffic that you mentioned, Mr. Mayor. And I think we'll get there. We're adding little bit positive pieces. And like I say, from what I hear, it's been a wonderful program. A lot of people have commented to me and really have enjoyed it. So I say, let's go forward. And we'd like to hear from the constituents. Your alderman is Alderman Lopez, and I'm sure he's on the infrastructure committee with me, and I'm sure he'll bring it right to our attention, anything that we can do. So looking forward to hearing from you on it.
Now, one thing we may try to do this year is last year, we just did it on an emergency basis, and this year, I've been talking with economic development and some of the businesses about trying to quantify how many people come down during the summer. My guess is it's tens of thousands of people when you think about the season. May, June, July, August, September into October, basically. So it's a little bit in April as well. We may have tens of thousands of people. So I think it would be interesting to quantify that. And from that number, we could kind of extrapolate how much money is brought in from the outdoor dining to the businesses downtown. But that's something we need to work on. It's not totally, we need to get the businesses to cooperate in terms of helping us try to determine how many people are being served and are coming downtown. Tom Lopez.
Hey, everybody. A couple comments. I'm a huge fan of the outdoor dining as well, mostly because I think the safest way to have addressed the previous year we had was to be something of a hypochondriac. So I appreciate the fact that we had the ability to let businesses continue to do their business and engage in such a positive manner, while at the same time observing the climate of safety concerns that we were operating under. I know some businesses, you know, struggled heavily, and we lost a couple favorites. But we are looking forward to seeing Sub-Zero. We are looking forward. There's a new businesses in where Dolly Shakers used to be. There's Casey McGee's is up and running, and then there's an additional one on Water Street, long time coming, next to Delena's house. So those are exciting things. And in the infrastructure committee, we have been looking at opportunities for other parts of the downtown areas, such as West Hollis and Factory Street and West Pearl. So we are thinking of other businesses too. It's just the streets are a little bit less feasible. There will be some construction. So the legendary Performing Arts Center looks like it's finally kicking off. So people might notice that they can't cut through next to Fort Engage anymore. It's closed off to start positioning some construction stuff. So you're likely to see some construction changes taking place right around the West Pearl area. I think the mayor can touch base on that. And we are kicking off, it looks like the School Street project is planning on starting this summer, as well as the Broad Street project towards the end. And that kind of leads me to talking about housing and the shortages we have in apartments and available housing capacities. We know people are struggling. We know people have been given a little bit of a break with paying their rent, and it's very important to catch up to that. City Welfare and the Front Door Agency do have funds specifically for people who are behind on their rent due to COVID or behind on their utilities. So I strongly encourage people to start utilizing those programs as they're able to. You know, your stimulus money is a nice little chunk of change, but you should use resources that are fixed resources that can only be used for certain things, and save that flexible money for things that may come up on that are unanticipated. We are continuing to work on the dog park. So I would like anybody who has left some surprises over the summer or over the winter to maybe start taking a look at those. And we are still working on other projects, such as increasing access to soccer courts, futsal, reopening the parks and all that kind of stuff. So I know people have been struggling a lot over the past year, having to be indoors, having to be refrain from a lot of the activities that they normally would take place in. And here in Ward 4, we have smaller apartments, we have smaller buildings. So it's been particularly challenging. We are attentive to issues such as mental health crises, adverse childhood experiences, and those types of things. Well aware that the hospital has had a longer waiting line than ever, that the state hospital has converted a new wing to address children that are in crisis. Greater Nashua has been expanding its after hours and mobile crisis response services. We're doing a lot, and we're trying to mobilize a lot of help. But one of the best things we can just do as a community is continue to think about each other, continue to observe masking and social distancing so that we can really put this behind us, continuing to support each other in the ways that we're able to, and trying to make sure that we are making decisions that will get us back to the lifestyle that lets us be, share the community together.
Now, the School Street housing that Tom was speaking about, or the housing on School Street, that's 150 thereabouts units on School Street. New housing in the downtown, which is the first time really in 100 years where an apartment project like that has been built from the ground up without, using the advantage of a renovation in more than 100 years. And Tom also mentioned the Bronstein, so the Nashua Housing and Redevelopment Authority, as it's now called, is working with the city and with Boston Capital to try to expand the Bronstein site from about 48 units to 200 or so, and those would all be affordable units. So we think that would not only provide more residents for downtown, of course, but help us with, provide 150 more families with more affordable housing. Maybe we should ask, is Sarah still on here? You want to spend a couple minutes talking about the master plan, just telling people what's up and everything we're looking to do?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. So Sarah Marchant, nice to meet you all. I'm the Community Development Director for the city. If you haven't participated yet in Imagine Nashua, we would love to hear more from you. The best place to go is imagine.nashuanh.gov. And you can check out the website that has all the information and great places to begin to give some of your feedback on the many topics the mayor was talking about this evening. So Imagine Nashua is the city's first attempt in almost 20 years at creating a long-range master plan that will guide the policy and land use decisions for the city for the next 5, 10 years or longer. An example from the last master plan that the community came up with that they said was really important to us as a city was 20 years ago, as we said, we really need more open space. We need more conservation lands and open space and trails. And so since that time, the city has invested in over 1,200 acres of conservation land and built miles and miles of trails. So those are really high, this project comes up with high level policy goals and land use ideas that then in the next 6 months or a year from now, we will start updating the land use code to reflect the values and things of importance that we hear from you, the community, through this process. If you go to the website right now, we have a really cool interactive mapping tool called Social Pinpoint, that it's kind of like Google Maps, and you can put a pin down for an idea you have, something that's great or something that we could probably be doing better. And I was just zooming around on Ward 4, and there's quite a few ideas there. There's a ton of good feedback about Main Street and outdoor dining. But there's also some interesting ideas in different areas of Ward 4 about this is a good area to add starter homes in one section, talking about different railroad uses, the importance of bicycle and pedestrian connections. And so there's a lot of really good comments there, but I'm sure we're missing some from you. So those are the kind of things we'd love to hear. What do you think about your neighborhood? There's comments in here that Spring Street should be two-way. Are there things that you think about your neighborhood that can help make it better? The next big meeting that we're hosting is April 6th, and we'd love to have you join us. The topic for April 6th is redoing a plan for Daniel Webster College, a very high level area plan. What's key and important to us about that? And then looking at our major transportation corridors, Amherst Street, DW Highway, Northeastern Boulevard. What do those look and feel like 5, 10 years from now? And what is most important about those? So those are the next steps. In the next couple of months, then we'll be coming out with a more solid draft plan and having bunches of meetings. And if you have more questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I will put both the website and my email in the chat. And we come talk to book clubs and groups of every kind and sort all over the city, explain about the process and take your feedback. So if you have a group that would like to learn more than happy to come and visit through Zoom and socially distanced and get your feedback and ideas. So this is a really important project and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Now, we did get one question in advance via email from David and Nancy Marsden. And it asks about the paving of Pine Hill Avenue, which is near and dear to Lori's heart, since she lives right there. And they point out that the condition of the street is very bad and asks whether it's going to be paved, and if not, why not? Because we are paving this year. We're scheduled to pave 15 and a half miles of residential streets and 7.5 miles of more arterial streets, more significant streets. Now, the answer to that is that the Marstons are totally correct that the street is in terrible shape. We have a so-called paving condition index on every street in the city, and the the index numbers for Pine Hill Ave are very low. 18 and depending on the section, 18 to 32. That would definitely call for paving. Now, the reason that it won't be done this year is that the gas main in the street needs to be replaced by Liberty Utilities. And what we've done elsewhere, and you might remember that it took forever to pave Kinsley Street because of this, that what we've done elsewhere is we don't want to pave a street, spending a lot of money, and then have the utility come in and just dig it all up again. So we work with them, we prod them to go ahead and do the gas work, and then we pave it. So we're hoping to see Liberty complete the gas work possibly in 2021 and then pave it thereafter. But the Marstons are right. Were it not for this gas work, this would have to be near the top of the list. I think Stacy Marie Lawton is on the call as well, another rep from Ward 4. I think she is on. Manny or Stacy, do you have anything to report from the legislature? Anything you'd like to
Yeah, I'd be
add
happy
or inform
say a
us
few.
about?
Yeah, I'd be happy to say a few words. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, Mayor Donches, for having these town halls. With the legislature, I know Michael Bryan, we worked on, Representative O'Brien actually tried to help foster a bill through that would help lower our, which would increase the commitment that the state would make towards pensions. And unfortunately, that bill, while it got bipartisan support, came up short in the legislature, in the House. So we are, we're doing whatever we can to help Nashua through these difficult downshifts, because the state made a commitment to the city, to cities and towns, and we're trying to make sure that we can help up there. Alongside that, we're currently working on the budget. So a lot of those decisions are being made with, the budget and looking at how it's, the governor is basically given us his version of the budget. The House is currently making our House is making theirs. So we should get a clearer idea of that. And we are going to be voting on the budget on April 7th. So that'll be something that people should keep an eye out for. I'm expecting that there will be many cuts, and I'm worried that there's going to be, it'll hurt our city in the long run. Educational funding is just not going to be where it was 2 years ago. That's one of the issues that we're fighting for, is to make sure that we have the education funding is similar to what it was 2 years ago, but we are incredibly nervous that it won't be. And so we're fighting hard in Concord to try to do whatever we can to help the city, because we know that a lot of these downshifts hurt the city. And then the other thing that we really tried to fight for was housing, making it easier for there to be housing. And actually, it's one of the bills that the governor was trying to help pass, and unfortunately, that was also beat in the House. So we're trying to do what we can, but it's been a tough session so far. I don't know, Representative O'Brien, if you have anything else you want to add, or Representative Lawton.
Mike is also a state rep, Mike O'Brien. Now, David Cody had another meeting. Otherwise, I'm sure he'd like to say something, but he had to leave. So do Mike and Stacy have anything?
No, I think Stacy said it. I think, as you know, Mr. Mayor, would have liked my bill to go through. Only lost it by 14 votes, but I'm very proud of Representative Lawton and Manny and everybody that's up there. All 28 representatives of Nashua voted for it. So that was very positive. We completely understand what Nashua was going through, but like I say, we only lost it by 14 votes, so it was close. We really did give it the college try.
Well, thank you, of course, for your efforts. Now Nashua is, we should probably point out that Nashua is not alone. I mean, all cities and towns, especially the cities, are being hit with these two things, the increase in the pension costs and the reduction in school aid. It's, I guess, just from the outside, it appears that the chances of getting the reduction in school aid, some of that money back, seems better than the pension issue, but as Manny said, we don't know. I've got my fingers crossed, and I know our delegation is working hard on that. So we're hoping. What and does Tim hasn't been able to get on yet. Does anybody from the audience or anything have any questions? Stacy says she's a little under the weather. How now Tim was hoping to come on to talk a little bit about the tannery. Bobby is working all the time. Bobby is the director of public health, Bobby Bagley. She's working all the time in terms of trying to get people vaccinated, trying to keep people wearing their masks, trying to make sure that the people who test positive for COVID-19, the patients they work with are remaining distance, that they can get food and everything. So the public health has really done a good job throughout this entire year, and now going into year number 2. Now, we didn't get any other pre-questions, so I don't know, do Lori or Manny? I see you raise your hand.
Yeah, I just want to say, on behalf of some of the businesses that I've talked to recently, I want to say they are definitely excited about the outdoor seating. So I just want to say I really, really appreciate having that for so many of these businesses who definitely struggled. And there are a few things that are happening around, I know with PPP loans, and I know that Tim would be able to talk about some of these things for these small businesses, but we're still not out of it. We still have a lot of work to do. So, but I appreciate everything that the city is doing to help businesses with, and also residents with any rental assistance and with utility help as well. So, on behalf of the state front, we want to thank the city for all the hard work that y'all are putting. And obviously, Bobby, I know, is working hard. Director Bobby Bagley is working hard on vaccines. So I really appreciate her hard work on that too.
In terms of the outdoor dining, it was done. I think we did that to help the small businesses, initially, that we really needed to help people who we knew were struggling downtown. But it did have the effect of changing the vibe and the atmosphere of downtown by moving just to 2 travel lanes and expanding the outdoor space. It just made everything feel differently. I think that's why we've gotten such a positive reaction from many of the people who came downtown, that they just love the feel of the place that way, and have been really missing it as with 4 lanes of traffic running down the middle of the street. Lori, you have anything else you would like to
Yes,
add?
sure. I was listening into the Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting the other night. I know Tim's not on, and he might have had this as part of what he was going to talk about, but the city now owns the NIMCO building, which is next to Bagshar on the Veterans Parkway. So we can at least start thinking about doing something with that abandoned property. Also, what do we hear, Mayor, about 88 Pine Street?
Which is 88?
The old Keystone building.
Complicated situation. It's owned by this is a building in the Mill Yard, for those who don't know. It's near Clock Tower Place to the west, right on the Broad Street Parkway. So what we're hearing is that the owner of the building has passed away, and it's now held by an estate. And the parking there is very limited. Probably on their site, there is, about 10 spaces possible. And then the city owns a parcel right adjacent between the building and the Broad Street Parkway, which might accommodate another 13 spaces. And could work with the owner to try to sell it, or work with the owner to, if we can get something decent, a good development in there. I mean, certainly a housing would be great. We don't want to see the building just be partially occupied and just remain abandoned, 3/4 abandoned. It's just not a great situation. So actually, we had a meeting about this today, and we're trying to think about what we might be able to do to get the building fully used and occupied. But because of the lack of parking, it is 20 spaces for a 20,000 square foot building is, not very much.
Yeah,
The parking
that's
down
rough.
there, is, that parking is an issue for the Picker building as well, which is the building where the artist used to be, between the 88 Pine and Clock Tower. Clock Tower bought that and was hoping to convert it to housing and build some standalone housing in the area between Clock Tower and the mills across the road, and or across the parking lot, and wanted to build some underground parking, but they found that the cost of that was so large that they couldn't, the development couldn't support it. So that's something that the Board of Aldermen and we need to consider as to, sort of what we should do long-term to try to improve the prospects for some of those buildings and parcels that we own.
Thank you.
Mike, you got anything? Oh, well, I just got a note. Someone has asked me to report that the public health has tested, since in the last year, 6,800 people, so for COVID, and has now delivered over 2,000 doses of vaccine. Now, again, they can only deliver what they're given by the state of New Hampshire. The state of New Hampshire has put itself in charge of all of the vaccine delivery. So we, the public health, can only work with what they give us. They have been asked and are very successfully reaching out to residents who are less likely to have access to the vaccines. People of color, people who live downtown, less chance to get around, people who are more vulnerable to the virus when they get it. So that's why we've been running the clinics at St. Louis to reach, an underserved population. But we want everyone to get vaccinated. So I'm encouraging, and public health is encouraging everybody to sign up as soon as you're eligible. We want every Nashua resident to get vaccinated as soon as possible. Stacy may have, have you got your hand up, Stacy?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Well, just briefly, I just wanted to, I'm a little under the weather tonight, but I just wanted to thank you for putting this on real quick. And it's the first time I've been able to be part of a Ward 4 meeting since getting elected. So thank you for inviting me.
All right. Well, thank you for attending.
Yes.
Mike or Tom, you got anything you'd like to add?
Well, I do have one more thing that many of the residents, and particularly in Ward 4, it's one ward of particular interest. The Infrastructure Committee I have been attending, and what I'm talking about is the overnight parking study. Director Cummings, he's not here. He could better explain it, but we went through all the wards. That has basically just been done. We came back and revisited, I think, wards 3 and 7 and Ward 4. and it was very informative. We listened to all the constituents, their pros and cons. So just to give you a brief update, like I say, right now the information is being compiled. The contractor that we hired is looking at it, and it's got to come up with a recommendation. And so yes, it's going to be a little bit of a project. And I ask everybody to be patient with it, because some of the wards came up and valued the fact that they did not have overnight parking, and some wards absolutely need it. And Ward 4 is one of those areas. So we're taking everything into the balance. I ask you to be patient with this until we get all the information compiled. And when Mr. Hill, our contractor, is done with all that, I'm sure Director Cummings will come out with the report. It'll be brought to the full board, and I think also be scheduled for public input at that particular time. So we're working on it, folks. So just bear with us, please.
Oh, okay. So Tom has a question I hear from one of our residents.
Yep, Sandy Belknap.
Okay, and why don't you go ahead with the question?
Her question was really for you. Have you reached out to the governor regarding Nashua's needs and the issues that we're facing as a city?
Definitely. So we meet, the mayors in the mayors in New Hampshire meet periodically, and have been meeting much more often as a result of the budget and these issues that we've raised. And we meet every couple of weeks, and we've formulated, as a group, we've reached out to the governor's office, particularly about the school aid issue, but also regarding, and wrote a joint letter about it, as well as the pension issue. So we're trying to, but the governor's budget is in at this point, and it did not address any of these issues. This is a bipartisan group of mayors, I might mention, that there's at least one Republican, I think two among the group. It's 10 or 12 that have participated. Concord, Manchester, Keene, Claremont, Lebanon, Dover, Rochester, Portsmouth, Laconia, Franklin, Berlin, all those mayors have participated. Yes, we have reached out, and of course we are reaching out actively to the legislature at all times, in the hopes of getting some of these things corrected.
If you don't mind, I just have another comment to make too.
Yeah, of course.
I've heard a lot of constituent concerns about increasing prevalence of violence against Asians, especially in the context of the shooting that happened in Atlanta day before yesterday, I think it was. So I just wanted to let residents know the mayor does have a Cultural Connections Committee that meets monthly specifically to address access to government and feelings of welcomeness and inclusion. That is coordinated through the library. So you can definitely participate in that. And then with regards to police presence, there's a effort called Nashua Ethnic Racial Disparity, Nashua ERD. It's run by Officer Camacha, who many probably know in the community. He is adamant that I not call it NERD, but it's an easy way to remember it. And what that is it's a way to address police presence with regards to minority children, helping to reduce disproportionate minority contacts. People whose only experiences with police end up being pulled over or arrested, and then ultimately having more people in prison of a certain demographic just because there are more encounters starting that chain off. So we have a lot of initiatives that are designed to teach police officers how to interact with people of different cultures. If you feel like your culture needs to be better represented, you can reach out to Nashua Ethnic Racial Diversity, and you can also participate in the Cultural Connections Committee.
And I would like to say that in seconding that everyone in Nashua is welcome. Everyone is valued. Every person is, equally a member of our community, regardless of ethnic background or what, any other qualities and any of their individual characteristics. And we value these differences. We're glad to have people of Asian descent here in Nashua. We are the most inclusive community in the state of New Hampshire. And I think I can speak on behalf of the Board of Aldermen and say that unanimously we agree that we are a welcoming city officially, and we want to stay that way and make everyone understand that they are equally valued, and we do not sanction or ever support. We condemn anything that would occur like this in Nashua, which fortunately it has not. But the Cultural Connections Committee is a committee that we value because it seeks to reach out to all of our ethnic communities and include everybody to the extent they want to be included. All right. Well, I think we've kind of reached the end of our little session. We try to wrap up in less than an hour because these Zoom meetings get to be this is not the same as in person. I don't know. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add before we conclude? Okay. Well, we look forward to seeing you all outdoors downtown. Please reach out to the Cultural Connections Committee if you believe that that anything is inappropriate that's going on, and keep in touch with the mayor's office, the Board of Aldermen, and your state reps regarding any issues that you may have. And thank you for joining us on this Thursday evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to our public officials.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.